applying these gorgeous colors to timber is easily done. Take a look at the following video. Hi everyone, Giles here from Whittle Waxes. Today we're talking about our 10 colors, which are pigment based, and how you can apply those to your next timber project. We've got a selection of the 10 colors as I mentioned. People will sometimes question their names, but clearly it's very difficult to have a name for a color. My background being in Africa, it just worked that the animal names that these are named after are indicative. So that's just a bit of useless information, I suppose. We also have a range of stains, of which there are 3, and those we will deal with in a separate video. Okay, before you start your project, there are a couple of things to bear in mind. It's important that you do a sample board first. The timber species that you've chosen will dictate the color's outcome, as well as the preparation of that timber species. So the preparation of your sample needs to be the same as the preparation of your end piece. Okay, the application of the color is a really simple process. On smaller pieces, you'd use an old t-shirt or a lint-free cloth, and it's basically give the tin a really good stir. It's made with pigments, and the pigments will sometimes settle. So give it a good stir, dip the cloth in that, and you rub on the stain onto the piece that you're working on. Don't be scared to be liberal. You need to get it well covered. And then using a clean cloth, wipe off all the excess immediately. On bigger areas like a floor, for instance, a rotary polisher is often used, and the technique there is to trowel or squeegee the product on and then wipe off the excess using a polishing machine. So this gorgeous oak floor is getting stained with our sable black. The process is to trowel it on, or in this case use a squeegee, and then follow behind to lift off the inconsistencies using a white pad under a polishing machine. On this job, which is a hoop pine floor, the first thing to do is to cut in with a brush up to the skirting boards and wipe off the excess immediately. You can then, in this instance, we actually put the stain on with a machine. Put the stain into a sauce bottle, and you squirt it onto the floor, put the machine on top of it. Don't ever run the machine into the puddle because you'll end up with it flicking everywhere. And then spread the product with the machine. Very, very quick and straightforward. So once you've applied the stain, you then leave it overnight to dry, and come back the next day to apply your first clear coat. In this instance, on this particular floor, the client wanted it a richer, darker brown, and so we actually put some of the stain in the clear finish to strengthen that overall color. So once that first coat has dried, and that needs to be left overnight again, you then lightly cut it back using the polishing machine before applying the final coat. This old hoop pine floor had an orange polyurethane on it. And look at the difference now. It looks so much better and more indicative of what this particular client wanted. As I mentioned earlier, another way of getting color onto a piece is to put it into the clear finish and roll it on or wipe it on as a tint. It's very subtle. This project that my dad did, he needed to match the color on the legs onto the top that he'd resanded. And he did this by tinting the clear coat. Okay, a word of caution when tinting. The rule of thumb is a 5% color into the clear finish. Anything more than that, certainly on bigger areas where you've got the product drying as you're applying it, any overlaps are going to show up with the tint in it, whereas they wouldn't show up if it was just a clear finish. Okay, now what's interesting here is our colors are pigment based, and pigments, the reason why we use pigments is that they are light fast. They don't change color. It's not a dye. And it also means that you can then dictate the end result depending on how you finish the piece that you're working on. So if you feel that your sample is too dark, that there's too much richness in it, if you sand it finer, go from a 120 to a 150 for argument's sake, you will reduce the intensity of the pigments that are trapped in the grain and therefore lightening the color. The opposite is if you water pop it. So this, for instance, is finished on a 150 and it's a subtle brown. But if you wanted it more intense, you wipe over a section of it with a damp rag, as I've done here, and you basically double the intensity of the color. And all it's doing is by raising the grain, you're increasing the surface area for the pigments to attach to. So to finish off, we're going to be applying each of our colors to these oak blocks, give you an idea of how the process works. Okay, if you're looking at using the colors, these little test pots are a perfect size. It means you can do a sensible sample. It's not a tiny little squeeze out of a sachet. Give it a really good shake or stir. This particular color is bushbuck brown, and it's as simple as literally dipping a lint-free cloth in the product and then applying it to your sample board that you're wanting to get colored. And it's literally wipe it on. Make sure you get it into the grain, cover the entire area, dip again if you need to. So you've got it well covered. And then using a clean cloth, immediately wipe off the excess. Just like that. And there's gorgeous bushbuck brown on oak. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing. In the next video, we'll be looking at our 3 raw stains.